In today's episode of HR Visionaries, we talk to Natalie from Talent Collective. We talk about her amazing network of talent acquisition professionals in the Bay Area. Stay tuned. Welcome to HR Visionaries, where we unlock the secrets of modern HR. I'm Benjamin, your host. Join us as we shed light on today's HR universe with HR leaders and innovators from across the globe. Whether you're an HR pro, a business leader, or just curious about the future of work, this is your shortcut to the forefront of HR innovation. Brought to you by Hire, the AI talent attraction platform. Welcome to the latest episode of HR Visionaries. I'm looking forward to my guest today, Natalie. It's great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Natalie, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Natalie. I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've been in talent acquisition for a little over 20 years, both agency, half my career. So I worked in a contingent recruiting firm. And then my other half was in-house corporate recruiting in a couple of TA leadership roles. And I now operate as a fractional head of talent or recruiter. And I also run and founded the Talent Collective, which is our community, global community for women plus in talent acquisition. So I'm a bit lady.
It's so exciting. I'm really looking forward to talk about the Talent Collective. But can you tell us a bit about, your history? You said you worked in the agency recruiting, then moved to an in-house role, which is a career many people in talent acquisition have. So therefore, it's super interesting to also hear your perspective.
I would say my legacy, or what I attribute to my agency days, is it's by far the best quote-unquote training ground when you're an early recruiter, because you get kind of all sides of exposure to recruiting in terms of a variety of clientele, industries, types of roles. I mean, naturally, maybe your agency or your department is niche in, sales or admin or so forth, but you still get a variety in roles in terms of, all companies are looking for this role very differently or very similarly. Also, the benefit is you build a huge network of clients and relationships with a variety of different companies and candidates. So I would say, a lot of my LinkedIn network is because of my agency days and all those amazing candidates that I met along the way. And I would lastly say that the only challenge or learning curve when you go into an in-house role is making that pivot from being a vendor partner to now being a strategic partner for one company that has one culture, and you are now the strategic partner with a variety of different stakeholders within that one organization and that one organization's goals, missions, initiatives, hiring plans, etc. So but otherwise, being in-house is really phenomenal, and it kind of takes your recruiting expertise to the next level, especially if you move into a TA leadership role. But yeah, I would say that that's kind of my journey in recruiting and some of the big aha moments that I've uncovered.
I'm wondering, is there, in particular, when you move from agency to in-house, is there a moment when you think about your market value, which is, defined by your skills, but also defined by your network of companies, but network of talents. And then at one particular point in time, you kind of switch from external to internal. So was it a consideration for you to think about, okay, well, what about would that actually harm or increase my market value?
By making the change?
Exactly, yeah.
That never actually crossed my mind. Maybe it was because I was still somewhat junior in my career and I wasn't thinking about any risk to my network. What I was most excited about in terms of making the transition was just spreading my wings, right? I wanted to be able to dive deeper into running full cycle recs instead of, providing candidate value up into a certain point with my clients. So I was less concerned about I wasn't as well aware of any risks, and I don't actually feel like I had any. I think it was more beneficial in terms of the companies that hired me liked the fact that I had worked with a variety of different companies of different stages, sizes, funding rounds. They liked that I had worked with both tech companies, professional services companies, early stage startups to established businesses. So it ended up, I think, being more of a benefit to my career, and there really wasn't any negative downside that came out of it. I hope I'm answering your question.
It's perfect. So because it just crossed my mind. So given it could also be a perspective. I'm not saying it's necessarily right or wrong, but it could be a perspective indeed. Natalie, you need to tell us about the Talent Collective. So what is it?
I would love to tell you about it. It is my passion project turned into a wildfire, a big, grand organization that my co-founders and we created really as I mentioned, a passion project, more of a beta type of thing that we wanted to try to create here in the Bay Area for literally ourselves. We were struggling to find relevant networking events that were just for recruiters. Oddly enough, there are not a lot of networking events for recruiters in the Bay Area, even though you would think, yes.
Why?
I don't know. It blew my mind. I just thought, and in my agency days, there was a lot more networking events, but as of late, what we found is there are plenty of groups for people in tech, men or women, mixed gender, in terms of groups that are relevant just for women that might be a little bit more parallel to us. It was female entrepreneurs, female founders, women in tech, moms groups, things of that nature, but there was nothing for women in recruiting. Or there was smaller Slack-like recruiting groups or other communities that kind of had a focused HR, people ops, and recruiting. And so we wanted to create something very, very niche.
That's something I find incredibly interesting, given well, it's also the reason why we started the HR Visionaries podcast, right? Because there is I think people in the HR world can very much benefit from each other. However, compared to other industries, to other professions, there's kind of a lack in terms of knowledge exchange. So let's say, well, my history as a banker, well, there's so many opportunities as a banker to connect with other bankers, to share knowledge. And well, it's actually great you started that initiative.
Yeah, thank you. We thought it would provide some value in some way, shape, or form. And so the three main pillars of the community. So our mission is to empower, connect, and advance Women Plus in TA specifically. And the ways that we do that is one, through our in-person events. So we are in 6 local cities. So we have local communities in 6 different metropolitan cities. We have 4 more planned between this month and June, and a couple more are in the potential roadmap in the fall. But so we do provide those in-person experiences if you're in a local market. If not, we have tons of virtual experiences. And so that encompasses a couple monthly workshops, a virtual fireside, typically a partner webinar. We're launching, coming up here for members, some sourcing sessions. So come bring your, challenging recs and let's, have a sourcing session together. We have mixers, virtual mixers. So for those that are not in a local area, they can still benefit a lot from networking and professional development virtually. And the last part is the development function. So we have, I think 9 or 10 now peer groups. It's 8 women that meet virtually every single month, and it's meant to be like your board of advisors. And then we have a mentorship program. So you can either use it as like a traditional mentorship, I'm junior and looking for someone more tenure than me, or you can do it as like a peer coaching relationship. So we do have some TA leaders that kind of peer coach each other as well. So that's what we've offered. And of course, more things will probably come, but in our first, 9 months, that's what we offer so far.
I'm wondering how do you address the challenges in talent acquisition these days, given, well, from my perspective, and I think it's not as necessarily a secret. Well, things have been quite volatile over the last years, right? So in terms of like hiring bonanza in like 2 years ago, then last year being a bit slower, then also last year the entire revolution of LLMs kicking in. So it's much more important to focus on, well, skills like whether people you hire can adopt to new changes. So how have you experienced that, and how do you address this?
So some of the hottest topics within the community are obviously AI in recruiting and fractional recruiting, how to operate now as a 1-person lean recruiting team, how to leverage, if you're in an agency setting, how to leverage other agency partners to like co-work on recs together. So the ways that we are tackling some of these things when it comes to your point about, that hiring frenzy that then became a layoff frenzy, we talk a lot about fractional and the benefits of that. Obviously, there's a lot of benefits for recruiters, right? They have a capacity to build up a portfolio of clients and fill in and scale up and down with the company as they need it, when they need it. But really also helping educate them on how to sell that as an offering to companies that they're having conversations with. And personally, I'm on a mission to help educate more companies about the value of fractional and why it can really save your runway, don't burn through your cash, like bring in the people when you need it, and then you pare down when you don't need it anymore. So fractional is a big thing that we are very excited about addressing. The other one was AI, and obviously debunking recruiters' fears of AI is going to take over my job. That was, a thing that we were hearing about for the first 3 to 4 months of our launch. Now it has shifted by way of, we introduced a couple of partners like MetaView, EQ App, Searchlight and Betterleap that all have AI powered sourcing functions, or AI powered interviewing tools, or AI powered recruiter GPTs that are all helping elevate and advance the position and the experience of a recruiter. And so now our community is much more excited, like, oh, okay, great. By having access to these tools and new innovative ways of leveraging AI, I'm only up-leveling my skill set, and I am able to now pivot, what used to take me a lot of administrative time. Now I can focus on more strategic things, or take on, learning a new sort of skill set, and who knows what's to come. So AI is the biggest one. I would say those are the 2 biggest: fractional and how to fill gaps as companies need it, and then the AI in recruiting.
In terms of it will take away my job, I would kind of agree. It will take away the parts of my job I don't like, probably.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
perhaps one can summarize it this way. Natalie, I need to ask you about the fractional part you just mentioned of this revolution that's going on. I think part of my job is also that I identify very much with the company I work for. So there's kind of an emotional bond. How do you approach this when it comes to like, okay, I work for XYZ, I work for ABC, how's the emotional part of things there?
I mean, it is a really good point, right? If you're not in an office every single day, 40 hours a week, it does create somewhat of a limiting barrier, but I don't see it any different as the remote work phenomenon, right? Companies were really worried about, okay, well, even if I have a 40-hour-a-week employee, we still are now challenged with that culture and that connectivity because people are just not literally sitting next to each other anymore or coming into an office and having in-person meetings. So it's somewhat similar in that regard. But I think the way that it can work is, number one, anyone that I talk to who's interested in becoming a fractional recruiter, I always recommend don't take on any more than 3, maybe max 4 clients at a time. Because the goal of fractional, number one, is to not be a consultant or a contractor or temporary in nature. By definition, fractional means ongoing, your dedicated recruiting or talent resource. I just happen to work a fraction of the time for a fraction of the expense. But I should be onboarded the same, just like if you were hiring me as a full-time permanent head of talent. I should be introduced and a part of any decision-making or leadership meetings just the same. I should be managing the recruiting team just the same, but you may only have enough quote unquote work for me 10, 20 hours a week. So, not to shoot myself in the foot, but why pay me for 40 hours a week if I know that I'm sitting here for probably 20 hours with not much to do? Me, that's not values alignment, and I don't like feeling that way. So anyways, my point is, the way that I try to really establish those close relationships with my clients is, number one, having regular, consistent check-ins. So those one-on-ones, just as I would naturally, having those weekly team meetings, just as I would naturally, meeting one-on-one with my CEO, just as I would naturally, being a part of like any in-person events or, the offsite retreats, whatever it may be. And then making sure that I'm just always available to that company. I never put a limit on, I'm only available to you, company, from 8 to 1 on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm always available. I know that where the rubber meets the road is I will not work over 10 hours a week without getting approval if there's not enough work to be done. But I'm available to you for up to 10 hours a week for projects and stuff.
Are there some kind of Chinese walls in place? So let's say that, well, the interest of the one client do not cross the interest of the other.
I haven't ran into that yet, but certainly there would be a day where maybe I'm engaging with 2 competitors. So I would probably, out of just, sheer, again, values, I would transparently, turn a client away or a prospective client away because I am working and supporting their competitor. And I'd probably refer them to, another fractional partner of mine and know that they're well taken care of. But yeah, that's a good point. I haven't run into that yet.
But it's I think super important to then refer to others so they can kind of create a marketplace also with Talent Collective, probably. It
We
makes
have
a
a lot
lot
of traction in the collective. The other thing I would say is I see fractional also differently than an agency, and especially a contingent one, because to your question, if I was in an agency, we would work with 2, 3 companies that are competitors. And that's kind of the value that we provide, right? We're an expert in your industry. We have candidates that, know that space really well. Where here, it's, again, I'm supposed to be seen as much like a permanent, staple as part of your company. And so I would not, if I was a full-time employee, be working with your competitor. So it should be no different.
It's super cool. Natalie, tell me a bit more about educating your the members of Talent Collective. So what do you how do you develop the educational sessions? how do you engage people?
So we'd like to do it in a variety of different ways. We do those workshops, and those are members only workshops. Well, actually, as of this week, we just launched those publicly. So you can, on demand pay to be a part of any of these training workshops if you are not a member. But we curate the speakers. So we know the types of topics that our members are looking for. We frequently survey them. We also get introduced to a lot of thought leaders in the industry. And so we create sessions around them because they are subject matter expert in a certain area. For example, our next upcoming workshop is with Marcus Sawyer, the founder of EQ app. And so he's coming to talk about AI in recruiting, but specifically like creating recruiter GPTs. So we like to create very niche types of programs. We don't want it to be something that you can find at a SHRM conference that might be more generalized. We don't want it to be something that you can go and like Google and quickly find yourself. We want it to be very niche, that you have to come and really understand the ins and outs. And so we curate it around speakers. We do a lot of sessions with our partners now. So anyone who is a partner of Talent Collective, we like to invite them in to do sessions because they're really the experts on creating tools and technology to help with these efficiencies. And so they, for example, the last one we had was with MetaView. And so the CEO came and did a session on, specifically how AI is enhancing the interview experience for recruiters. So we like to carve around our partner webinars how their tool or product is helping solve a pain point for our dedicated audience. And the last would be virtual firesides, and or if it was an in-person experience, we mirror that as a in-person fireside, and those are speaker panels. So those are meant to be moderated conversations that get the community involved, so they can come bring their questions, they can come debate the topic, but it gets them involved in interacting with these thought leaders that are on a panel as we kind of like debunk or pick apart a certain topic.
Can you share some of these wow moments? So sometimes I attend a discussion, or I listen to podcasts, or listen to someone elaborating his or her experiences, and then you have this wow moment. Can you share some of these wow moments you already had with Talent Collective?
Yeah. I would say a couple that stand out to me. Some of the sessions that we also do aren't just, recruiting specific, but it's also about personal development. Mm-hmm. So recently we had someone come on to help with like personal branding and LinkedIn branding for recruiters. And so a lot of our recruiters that either run an agency or they're kind of an independent recruiter really walked away with, wow, now I know how to position myself more effectively on LinkedIn as a thought leader. And so it's really changing the game with how they're going to go to market with their products or services. Another one was our last quarterly fireside. The topic was on the nuances and the unique differences of being a recruiter in agency versus corporate versus VC or private equity. And that was fascinating because, we naturally think like, oh, an agency recruiter then becomes a corporate recruiter, and then maybe a corporate recruiter will move into VC. It does not happen that way, according to our panel. For many of them, it didn't. And it's not always rose-colored glasses or rainbows and whatever the term is. It's not always fascinating and exciting every moment in each one of those domains. So that was a big aha moment for our audience who, some of them were really thinking about becoming a VC talent partner, or passionate about it, but after hearing some of the conversations, they were like, oh, maybe that's not the route for me. So really helping those individuals define for them what their future would look like. And I would say the last thing is the the experience that our partners walk away with when we co-host events with them. And what I mean by that is if they're sponsoring a TA leader lunch, or they are doing a partner webinar, or they are facilitating a focus group like yesterday, Ripple Match did one with us. They walk away every single time with product feedback, market feedback, or if they are looking to go to market with a new feature or functionality, they always walk away with new ideas, concepts, or, oh, actually, the way we intended for that isn't probably the right way that it's needed for the intended audience. And so our audience is also providing value and giving back to the recruiting or HR technology partners that are, trying to impact the industry. So it's not just all one way where people are bringing value to the community. Our community is also pumping it outwards.
Lovely. Natalie, thank you so much. It was great talking to you, and highlighting the importance of sharing experience. It's really cool what you guys do, and I look forward catching up again soon.
Yes, we'll see you soon. Thanks for having me.
And thanks all of you guys for listening in, and see you next time.